God's chosen ones, 9 hidden signs that set you apart from the world. Destiny doesn't shout, it whispers. In the moments you cried alone and no one came. In the classroom where you couldn't fake a smile. In the family that loved you but never understood you. You were never crazy. You were never too much. You were marked. God didn't choose you because you were perfect. He chose you because even when it hurt, He still told the truth. And every rejection, every strange instinct, it was Him, carving a path no one else could walk but you. If you are God's chosen one, this message was written in heaven, with your name on it. From the time I was little, I knew I was different. Not in the way kids hope to be, not the cool, loud, or clever kind of different. Mine was quieter, heavier, the kind of different that made people tilt their head at me like I was a puzzle they didn't want to solve. At the birthday parties, I stood near the edge of the room, not because I was shy, but because something inside me just couldn't pretend. I couldn't laugh at things that weren't funny. Couldn't go along with the crowd when something felt off. And it always felt off. I didn't have the words for it then, but now I know I was marked. Not overlooked, set apart. While other kids talked about what they wanted to do, I was already wrestling with who I was. Why I could feel other people's pain like it was my own. Why lies made my stomach twist. Why I'd lie awake at night, wondering why God made me so sensitive. I didn't know it back then, but what I called a burden was actually a blueprint. What I thought was isolation was preparation. Because the truth is, I wasn't meant to fit in. I was being shaped for something sacred. And maybe so were you. Part 1. The Mark of Authenticity. I don't remember exactly what the lesson was about that day, only that the clock on the wall was frozen at 2:47 like it always was, and that silence had fallen across the room like fog. Mr. Halbert asked a question, something about loyalty, maybe history, maybe something heavier. No one answered, heads down, pencils tapping. I sat in the back row like I always did. Not because I was shy, but because the back row let you disappear. And I had learnt young that disappearing was safer than being seen. But the question lingered, and something inside me, something I now believe was divine, wouldn't let me stay quiet. I raised my hand. When I spoke, I didn't say anything dramatic. Just the truth, just what I knew. But the moment the words left my mouth, I felt the air shift. Sierra and Jordan turned around in unison. Their eyes said it all. You weren't supposed to care this much. You weren't supposed to break the performance. In that moment, I understood something sacred. I could fake a smile, but I couldn't fake my soul. Everyone else seemed to know how to go along. I didn't, because I wasn't wired to survive through pretense. I was designed to speak with honesty, even if it cost me. There was another time, a group project. Everyone wanted to cheat, copy something from the internet, slap names on it, move on. I couldn't. They laughed when I refused, told me I was making life harder than it needed to be. Maybe I was, but something in me, maybe God, whispered, the real test isn't what you turn in, it's what you become. And so I did it alone. No fanfare, no applause, just quiet resistance in a world addicted to shortcuts. It would be years before I understood what was happening inside me. But now I know I wasn't just a weird kid with a sensitive conscience. I was being marked, set apart. Because when you're chosen, you don't get to lie and sleep well. You don't get to pretend and still feel peace. Your soul flinches when you betray your design. That's how you know. And maybe that's how I always knew. Part 2. The road less traveled. The guidance counselor asked me once, halfway through sophomore year, Why I didn't join any clubs. She smiled politely, pen poised above a clipboard. You know, colleges like to see involvement. I nodded, but I didn't answer. How could I explain that I didn't care about yearbook or debate team, or being seen standing in front of some banner with people I didn't feel connected to? How could I say that walking the hallways already felt like pretending? I wasn't trying to be difficult. I just didn't fit. I'd pass lockers covered in glitter letters and pictures from sleepovers I was never invited to, and I'd feel it again. That quiet ache, that whisper that said, "You don't belong here." And I didn't. Not really. Not because I was better, but because I was being built for something else. Others found comfort in routines, popularity, applause. I found discomfort in all of it, a restlessness I couldn't name, a hunger that couldn't be filled with attention or grades or hallway approval. I didn't want what they wanted. While they rehearsed for prom or homecoming speeches, I was journaling questions about eternity. While they posted photos with filters, I was staring at the sky, asking God if there was more than this. There always seemed to be a road stretching out beside the one everyone else was walking, and only I could see it. It wasn't paved, it wasn't pretty, but it called me, and like Robert Frost wrote, the line I carried in my backpack, underlined in pencil, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference. I didn't know where it would lead. I just knew I couldn't walk with the crowd and still be true to my spirit. So I let them go. Laiba de ungastatik. Let the invites stop. Let the silence fall. And I walked. Not because I was brave, but because my soul refused to be chained to what was shallow. Because some of us weren't born to follow. We were born to walk unfamiliar roads, so that others would one day find them. Part 3. The Furnace of Trials. The house was quiet that night. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that made the air feel thick, like it was holding its breath. I sat on the floor of my bedroom, back against the wall, knees pulled to my chest. The light from the hallway leaked under the door like a sliver of something I didn't have a name for. Hope, maybe? Or just survival? Down the hall, my mother cried in the kitchen. Again, and somewhere far away, or maybe just emotionally absent, my father sat in the living room, watching a TV that hadn't made him laugh in years. I was 13 or 14, old enough to understand too much, too young to do anything about it. That was the year everything broke. Friendships shifted. My body felt like it belonged to someone else. God, who used to feel so near when I was little, had gone silent. I remember praying, not out loud, just in my thoughts. What does everything hurt so much? Why did you make me feel everything so deeply? Why can't I just be normal? No answer came, but something stirred. Not a voice, not a sign, just something. A presence, a knowing, like heaven was watching, recording, taking notes in silence. That was the season I started carrying pain like a second skin, not just my own, other people's too. I saw the sadness behind forced smiles, heard the tension in closed-door arguments, felt the weight people tried to hide with busy schedules and polite laughter, and I couldn't unfeel it. It was like God had given me an extra set of ears for the things no one said. At the time, I thought it was a curse, but now I see it was training. That furnace, The heartbreaks, the rejections, the nights I cried into my pillow with no one to hear. It wasn't punishment. It was preparation, because what I didn't know then was this. Every storm that nearly drowned me was giving me the authority to calm storms in others. Every crack in my heart was making room for compassion. Every loss was building a language of empathy I would one day speak fluently. And even though it felt like I was being broken, I was being built, not into what the world expected, but into what heaven needed. Part 4. The outsider in the house. The table was set the same way every evening. 4 plates, mismatched forks, one too many silences. Dinner always started with prayer, but not connection. "Bow your heads," my father would say, voice steady, eyes already closed. I bowed mine, but my spirit rarely followed, because somewhere between the blessing and the biting of bread, something always shattered. They'd talk politics, I'd talk purpose. They'd talk tradition, I'd talk truth. And like clockwork, the air would stiffen. My brother would roll his eyes, my mother would sip water instead of speaking, and my father, he'd stare at me like I had betrayed something sacred, simply by being different. I didn't try to argue. I wasn't trying to win. But my heart couldn't stay silent when everything in the room felt loud with emptiness. I asked questions no one wanted to answer, felt things no one else seemed to notice, believed in things they said were idealistic or too deep for your age. I stopped being invited into the conversation. Then I stopped being included in the silence. Eventually, I learned to carry my questions alone. Sometimes I'd go outside after dinner, barefoot in the grass, stare up at the sky and whisper, "God, did you send me to the wrong family?" Because nothing about me seemed to match them. They loved rules. I needed meaning. They valued appearance. I ached for authenticity. They lived inside the lines. I kept dreaming in color. And for the longest time I thought something was wrong with me. But now I know I wasn't misplaced. I was planted, not to blend in, but to break through. To be the first in the bloodline who didn't bow to fear. To be the whisper of change in a house full of noise. To be the one who felt deeply, stubbornly, painfully, so that healing could begin where history had buried it. I wasn't the rebel. I was the reminder that even in a house of sameness, God still plants a seed of difference, not to dishonor it, but to deliver it. Because sometimes the black sheep isn't lost, they're just the first to walk a different way home. Part 5. The gift of goodness. It was a Tuesday, the kind of day no one remembers. Grey sky, lukewarm coffee, the sound of fryers hissing behind the counter of the diner where I worked after school. I was 16, name tag crooked, shoes sticky from syrup spilled during the breakfast rush. The regulars came and went, truck drivers, tired mothers, men who never tipped. And then he came in, middle-aged, worn-out jacket, eyes too tired to lie. He didn't order anything, just sat at the corner booth, hands folded like someone waiting for something besides food. I brought him water. He said thank you without looking up. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the way he held his breath before he spoke. But something in me whispered, feed him. Not just out of kindness, but obedience. I didn't ask the manager. I didn't make an announcement. I just walked to the kitchen, fixed a plate, and brought it over. When I set it down, he looked up, startled, like I'd reached somewhere deeper than hunger. "She'll answer," he asked. I shrugged. "You look like you needed it." He didn't cry, but something in his face did. The manager found out later, wrote me up, said I couldn't just give food away like that. I nodded, said I understood. But inside I knew the truth. That plate wasn't a violation of policy. It was an act of prophecy. See, there's something they don't tell you about being chosen. It's that your goodness will get taken for granted, your kindness mistaken for weakness, your generosity used and sometimes resented. Then you'll keep giving, not because you're naive, but because you're much. Because while others calculate what's fair, you move by what's right. While the world hardens, your heart keeps bleeding compassion. And it hurts, God, it hurts, to keep loving when no one says thank you, to keep serving when no one notices, to keep showing up when everyone else walks away. But chosen ones don't love for applause. They love because they were made of it. I've been stolen from, lied to, walked over, and still something in me keeps reaching out. I don't know how to stop seeing the pain in people's eyes. Don't know how to unfeel the ache in a stranger's silence. It used to make me feel weak. Now I know it's my supernatural strength, because it's easy to be kind when people deserve it, but to keep choosing goodness when life keeps trying to beat it out of you, that's not softness. That's anointing. You were never ordinary. You've spent your life wondering why you feel too much, why people leave, why you walk alone, why no one claps for the things that cost you everything. And now you know. It wasn't punishment. It was preservation, a setting apart. As only the deeply refined are trusted with the deeply broken. Only the misunderstood are sent to understand the misfits. Only the ones who walked through darkness can carry light without arrogance. Every trial, every silence, every rejection, it wasn't random. It was revelation. You were never called to fit in. You were called to break the mold. You were never meant to perform for the world. You were chosen to reflect the kingdom. And now it's your turn to rise, to walk into the room without shrinking, to tell the truth without apology, to love without limits, to lead without fear. If you've been through the fire, but never let it burn away your kindness. If you've been rejected, but still choose truth over popularity. If you feel the shift in your soul, as if heaven's been holding its breath waiting for you to believe, type it in the comments. I was never ordinary, I was chosen. And if this story stirred something in you, share it with someone else who walks quietly, who feels too much, who was always different. Because there, and if you feel called to support this mission, to help stories like this reach those who need healing most, follow your heart, support the journey. This is your moment. Heaven never forgot you. And your light, your real, raw, unbreakable light, is the very thing darkness fears most. Keep shining. You were chosen for this.